You ever think survival games are just fun and pixels? Just loot, shoot, move on. Yeah, so did everyone, until he showed up. The alien, quiet, watching, learning, and when the world of Days turned from game to something real, he was the last one anyone expected to understand what it meant to be human. But sometimes, the ones who know nothing about us end up showing us who we really are. The wind cut like knives across the ruined countryside of Chernaris. Abandoned houses sagged like memories left to rot. Cars rusted and overturned, and the distant growl of infected drifted through the cold air. The world was dead but somehow still hungry. Eli moved carefully along the tree line, his backpack hanging loose, nearly empty. He hadn't eaten in 2 days. His hands shook, not from fear but from the slow, creeping edge of starvation. Days was never gentle, never merciful. You survive, or you stop existing. Simple as that. He paused when he reached the old barn near the field. He'd been here before. This was where his friend Jonah had been ambushed weeks ago, where Eli had been too slow, too scared, too human. The guilt still lived in his chest like a second heartbeat. He reached for the barn door. Snap. A twig broke. He spun. Shotgun raised, but what stood before him wasn't a bandit. And it sure wasn't infected. Tall, smooth gray skin like polished stone. Eyes like polished glass. Wide, reflective, utterly alien. Thin build. Light steps. Not of Earth, not of this game. Not of this world. The creature tilted its head, curious. Not aggressive, just studying. Ellie's voice barely found strength. Hello. The alien blinked slowly, then moved its hand to its chest, tapping twice. A gesture, a name, a greeting. Eli swallowed. Eli, he said, touching his own chest. The alien repeated the motion, understanding. Eli lowered his gun just an inch. The alien took a step closer and pointed to the farmhouse. Danger, loot? Shelter. Eli couldn't tell, but something in its eyes, something calm, something patient. Eli nodded. Okay, together. And that's how it started. 2 outsiders in a dead world. One who failed to save a friend, and one who didn't even know what a friend was, yet. They traveled together, Eli and the alien he decided to call Soul. It seemed right. Like the sun. Something warm in a frozen world. Soul learned fast. When Eli drank too fast and got sick, Soul mimicked the careful pacing later with perfect precision. When Eli nearly stepped into a bear trap hidden under leaves, Soul stopped him with lightning reflexes. When infected charged them in packs, Soul moved with silent fluid purpose. No wasted motion, no fear. But Eli taught Soul to how to start a fire, why laughter matters, what loss feels like. One night, by a crackling flame in a hunting lodge, Eli told him about Jonah, the friend he couldn't save. He expected no response. No understanding, but Soul reached out slow, gentle, and placed one thin hand over Ellie's. No words, but comfort, the kind humans forget how to give. Days later, they reached the radio tower overlooking the valley, the last place Eli had wanted to return to. This was where Jonah's killer was rumored to roam. The Bandit King, the one who shot first and looted the corpses later. Ellie's hands trembled again. Soul watched him, then spoke. A voice shaped slowly, carefully, like learning to walk. Not alone. Eli froze. Tears hit him like a punch. Soul wasn't just learning Earth, he was learning humanity. They entered the tower. A fight, chaos, gunfire, panic. Eli nearly fell. Saul shielded him, taking a bullet through the shoulder. No hesitation, no fear, instinct, protection. Eli fired back, this time not too slow. The bandit collapsed. Silence, breath shaking, victory, and cost. Eli dragged Soul out into the fading light. Why would you do that? He choked. Soul's voice was weak but sure. Friend, Eli realized then survival wasn't just hunger and bullets. It was connection. Even in worlds meant to break you, even between those who should never have met. In a world that tries to make us numb, harsh, alone, sometimes the ones we least expect can remind us of our heart. Survival means nothing without someone to survive for. And sometimes, humanity is found in those who've never known it. The bullet hole in Soul's shoulder wasn't fatal, but it was deep. They found shelter in a small, decaying cabin overlooking a river, its windows shattered, its roof sagging. The rain came in cold sheets, drumming against the metal siding, echoing like distant footsteps. Eli worked silently, hands trembling as he stitched the wound with shaking fingers and scavenged fishing line. Soul didn't flinch, didn't even breathe the way humans did. He only watched Ellie's face, not the pain, the fear. Eli, afraid, Soul said softly, forming the words with careful effort. Eli stopped for a moment, surprised he could speak again. Yeah, he whispered, eyes burning. I'm afraid. I always am. He tied off the last stitch and couldn't stop his voice from cracking. I was scared when Jonah got shot. I was scared when I ran. I was scared when I met you. And now his throat closed around the words. I don't want to lose someone again. The rain outside seemed to pause. Soul lifted his uninjured arm and touched Ellie's chest. The same way Eli had once done to introduce his name. Live, Soul said simply. Not as an order, as a promise. For the first time since the world ended, Eli believed it. The storm passed. The days rolled forward. They scavenged, hunted, learned each other's rhythms without speaking. Eli taught Soul the word trust. Saul taught Eli something harder, forgiveness. They reached the outskirts of the coastal town of Berezino, once full of laughter, cars, markets, now haunted. Empty windows stared back like eye sockets. They weren't alone. A survivor group, armed, organized, moved through the streets. Not bandits, not raiders, but cautious strangers hardened by loss. Their leader was a woman named Tessa, strong voice, tired eyes, same kind of tired Eli carried inside. Her rifle was steady when she saw Soul. What is that? She demanded. Eli stepped forward. He saved my life. He's with me. The group wasn't convinced. Saul didn't lift his hands or reach for a weapon. He simply stood, calm, open, unafraid. Tessa's gaze softened, just for a moment. Days passed. The group accepted them, not easily, not completely, but enough to share food, shelter, quiet conversations, enough to build something resembling community. The thing humans had forgotten. Soul watched the group closely. How they joked, how they argued, how they cried quietly when they thought nobody saw. One night by the fire, he asked Eli, why survive? Eli thought about Jonah, the barn, the fear, the guilt, the loneliness. He looked at the group around him, sharing canned food, mending clothes, telling stories of what used to be. Then he looked at Saul, who had no past, but somehow was teaching him how to have a future. To remember who we are, Eli said. To remember that we're more than what this world tried to turn us into. Soul nodded slowly. Human, he said, not describing Eli, describing himself. Eli didn't correct him. ### inspirational closing message for the YouTube audience. In games, survival is about meters and bars. In life, survival is about each other. Sometimes the hero of a human story isn't human at all. Sometimes the one who knows nothing about our world becomes the one who saves the part of it that matters most. And maybe, just maybe, being human isn't about where we're born, or what we look like, or even if we bleed the same. Maybe being human is about choosing to care.